All right, welcome back to another episode of the Too Many Hobbies podcast presented by 𝐤𝐤𝐤. I'm your host, Brian Althorpe. Today, I'm very excited to have our guest, Rob Snell from Gundog Supply. Rob, thank you for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed your work and getting to know you over Facebook, and then just kind of chatting with you now. I'm like, okay, I could go in with this guy. We're gonna have fun. Yeah. If it's too serious, you people need to leave.
Yeah.
We're not.
This is your warning.
Yes.
No, it's been awesome. I really appreciate the kind words every time that I post something and you
Woo!
send it over. But it's so cool. We've talked about it before, but it's so cool, like being friends with other people that make cool stuff and like genuinely being fans of it. Like I love the stuff that you've done. Your photos with Riverstone is probably what pushed me to get a dog from them. So thank you for that.
Josh, come on, let's go. Affiliate commission.
We'll clip this and send it to Josh to make sure that he knows.
That's great. It's good to have evidence. You know, I'm worth it.
You're very worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you. But no, it's super easy to take pictures of dogs that are supermodels and Olympic athletes. You know what I mean? It's like they just show up, and if there's any light at all, they look great, you know, and they're super, super engaged in whatever they're doing. So they're intense going to the store when I need some Diet Cokes, you know, they're sitting in the passenger seat, you know, and I got Strike going, oh, let's go. You know,
Strike is a beauty too.
Yeah. He's unique. He's a good looking dog, but we can,
and we'll get into that. Definitely.
Got to give them even equal time because all of them are my favorites, you know.
If anybody follows you or is friends with you on Facebook, they know that.
Yeah. I got one joke and that's it. You know,
this is my favorite. And then you fire everybody up.
Yeah. And they all
can't have a favorite.
It's like, how can that be your favorite? I'm like, oh, well, when I'm taking their picture, they're my favorite, you know?
Exactly. No, it's so cool. Like the banter back and forth between us and just being, you know, fans of each other, I think is always cool. I think that's like the content creator, digital creator space definitely needs that. We need to pat each other on the back.
There's so many people who are super competitive. It's like, oh, if that guy's just, you know, he got a shot I didn't get, or blah, blah, blah. I love, like when Brett would be on on photo shoots that I would be on, it wasn't one-upsmanship, but it was like, I'm going to show him what I can do. You know what I mean? It's like, here we go. Let's go. And I would learn so much stuff. I mean, you know, 4 a.m, he's up there setting up, you know, Gundog grind coffee beads in our duck camp kitchen and, you know, faking the lights streaming through. And I'm like, where's my Diet Coke? You know? And he's teaching me photography, you know, 101 for like, you know, still life and at shots and stuff. And I'm like, you know, every time I do a shot and it's not a dog in action, I'm like, I stole that from Brett. So Brett, thank you. No, I just love having peeps, dude. It's good to have peeps. And it's like I see online, a lot of people are really competitive. And it's like, man, there's enough out there, you know, for everybody to eat. You know?
Of course,
and take care of your peeps. It's like, I'm gonna have a problem and I'm gonna be calling you going, hey, you know, I've got, you know, 7,500 hard drives here. What do you do for your workflow for your project drive? You know, this is like, you know, I tried to explain to somebody, they're like, just put it in the cloud. I'm like, well, this is 8 clouds. This is like 50 terabytes. No, well, more than that. It's like, these are all 1 or 2 or 4 terabyte drive. So I'm going to be like, hey, how do you store your stuff? So I like having that I can call up and say, you know, in the middle of something and say, hey, can you help me out here? But it's a Mutual Appreciation Society and we can all kind of help each other. So it's great.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's so cool. Like I've talked with Brett, I talk with people all the time and we're all doing different stuff. And it's like, you know, I do mostly TV and photo stuff and then, or, you know, long form. I started to switch into like the short form stuff. And Sean, when we were filming one time, was like, well, why don't you try making this project in this way? And that way your reels will look better. And so I went home and I did it and I haven't stopped since. It's like, I kind of found.
Is this way?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it. I'll get you the details. But like, that's the thing is, you know, if a lot of us are creating the same thing or like the same concept, we can use it to leverage, you know, our work. It's
absolutely,
you know, I could pull you into a project and say, hey, I really need, you know, another person. And if you're doing the same kind of thing that I am, I have another body or, you know, vice versa. You know, just there's so many ways that we can help each other. And I think that you start to get too competitive in it and you really lose that sense of community.
Right.
So
and I didn't go to photographer school. I mean, I did go to art school, but it's like, but it was, 100 years ago. And everybody was like, they weren't doing the kind of stuff that I wanted to do. So we really didn't have that community. Like I look at these guys, Star Wars reference. I look at George Lucas and those guys in California. They all went, to USC, and they had their little community of filmmakers, and they all, used that and leveraged it and got business connections out of it, not just artistic things. So it's like, I've learned more about the outdoor industry from my photography teams, really, than more than photography stuff. They've educated me about stuff that, as an e-com guy, I know all this nerd stuff, but I don't know what, you're talking about game fair. I'm like, what is that, like role-playing games? Is that what is that? It's like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm in. It's like, no, game is in hunting. Okay. Yeah. So it's like my brother handles all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. But it's the same concept. Like I'm an engineer by trade, like that's what I went to school for.
Oh, sweet.
And that kind of blows people's minds when I say, oh, I'm also a photographer and videographer. It's like two different ends of the spectrum there, but same technical, I guess, So I feel your pain. It's like especially in my area, because it's not a lot of, there just isn't really anybody else that does a lot of photo and video stuff in the outdoors industry like I do.
Right.
There's maybe one or two, and we'll banter back and forth, but it's on not to pat my own back, but on the scale that I'm at, it's really just me right here. And so a lot of my friends that also do camera work are in, like, which I do weddings and portrait stuff, but that's like what they have focused on. Where I do weddings, I focus on it, but if I had my choice, I'd be in the marsh or I'd be on the lake. It's not. And so then I don't really have that community here. So yeah, I think we, like us, it's just kind of meeting each other through the grapevine of people, and we've got this network all over the country. It's pretty cool.
It's a small world. I mean, the hunting dog community, especially, it's super, super small. I mean, everybody knows everybody, and and it's great. Even your most direct competitors, you're frenemies with. You know what I mean? And there's plenty to go around. Amazon and Chewy are the ones we need to be worried about, not Fred's Dog Supply. Down the highway.
Yeah, it's those big commerce online platforms that you really need to. Yeah, that's more of your competitor, as opposed to, like you said, people who are also doing gun dog products. You could probably leverage a relationship there with them too.
Yeah, I mean, there are 100 other people who sell almost exactly the same things that we do. So it's like we have to leverage, at Gun Dog Supply, we have to leverage our strengths, which is my brother's product knowledge and his contacts in the industry and his, 40 years worth of working with dogs and, training dogs and being a hunter and, spending half the year on research and development, which means he's hunting, working. He's in Montana right now. Well,
he is.
Little sus. No, he's working. No, he's working, and he's testing prototypes and he's doing that kind of stuff. But it's like, you have to leverage, your strengths and say, this is why people should shop with us and not somebody else who just happens to be another Garmin dealer. Anybody who can fill out a form and, and has a, an EIN and good credit or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so when somebody's, Sport Pro's blowing up, or they can't figure out how to sync a 2-dog system or whatever like that, they call us up and there's not a phone tree. I got, Drew Blackwell's answering the phone going, what you got? I got you. Okay. Yeah. Do this. No. It's backwards. Flip it over, and I hear that all the time. And I'm like, you don't want me telling you what to do. If your R3's jamming, that's who you want. But if your TT15's on fire, it's like, you want one of my dudes, our product guys or my brother, or one of the ladies, customer service. See, that's what you want to leverage that.
Yeah. Well, and I guess on that topic, you want to give a little background on Gun Dog Supply, how it started?
Who the hell am I, and why should anybody care about listening to me talking about ducks and dogs and photography and stuff? Okay, so my name's Rob Snell, and my brother and I own Gun Dog Supply, which is an online. We were a mail order company. We kind of still think of ourselves that way, but we're we have a website, gundogsupply.com. My parents started the company in 1972. We sell training supplies for hunting dogs. My brother is like obsessed with bobwhite, quail, blue chasing blues in Texas. I mean, he, you know, if he would hunt all the time if he could. And now with these phone apps, he can practically answer all his emails and shoot videos, and, you know, in our customer support portal, he can do all that stuff while he's, you know, while the dog's on point. He'll be, I have seen him in the field say, hey, can you hold on a second? These birds are about to flush. Bam. Okay, where were we? Oh, yeah. So you need to update the software on your TT15. Yeah. I mean, you know, we've been selling, we got online. No, hold on. Blah, 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 blah. See, I told you. Let me go back. 1972, my dad is an overeducated economics professor who's working for the state government. My mom's a school teacher, and he's had enough of this of Mississippi politics and, you know, money under the table stuff that he's, you know, has to watch go on. You know, he's going back and forth to DC as the coordinator of state and federal programs. Anyway, he was a bureaucrat and he hated it, and he wanted to own his own thing. And for years, he had been a bird hunter, and he had raised dogs, and he was breeding dogs, and he was training his own dogs. And he was like, I want to have my own dog supply place. So he started Gun Dog Supply on his table as a side hustle, was what we call it now, back in 1972. And I remember they built a wall in our house in between the dining room and the living room, and that was his office. And he made these little bitty ads, these little classified ads. Hang on, like it's show and tell, you know, and that evolved into this catalog.
Oh, awesome.
And so he would have this catalog, and this is the fancy one. It's like they used to, you know, this is back when desktop publishing popped, you know, in the 90s. But he would run, you know, tiny little classified ads for the dog collars he was making and selling in like Brittany publications and American Field. And it's just really cool going back on some of these old magazines, finding his ads, you know, shipping, you know, 60 cents for postage. And these dog collars are like $2. I'm like, okay, no wonder we starved to death in the 70s, you know? So he did that, and they got it, you know, good enough to be able to, for him to go full time. And so he kind of does like you and I do. He's like, he does several things. He was still doing some economic consulting to kind of supplement things as he was going, you know, in the 70s.
Okay.
By like, you know, the late 70s, they were full time. You know, they had a catalog coming out every year. They were making products. They were trying to find new products. They were trying to get into dog training collars. And then because they were in Jackson, Mississippi, which is where our house was, and he had a little garage over in Ridgeland, Mississippi. And that's kind of where the economic development was going. And there were so many people locally who, you know, would be on the mailing list and go, hey, I want to come by your showroom. And he's like, showroom? We don't have a showroom. You know, I wish I got a picture somewhere of this ancient. I mean, it looks like you're going to get shot. You know, it's a place you just wouldn't, right now, you wouldn't want to go down there at night. You know, it's pretty sketch. You know, so he had a little, you know, 400 square feet, and he had a little showroom, and he started selling, he's like, hey, I can sell these guys dog food. And so he started selling premium dog food back before PetSmart was even a concept. He didn't have pets, but it's like a pet store without, you know, with pet food, with dog food.
Okay.
And so that took over, and actually that was more successful for my parents than the national mail order was at that point. So they kind of leaned into that, into like, I was in college by then. So it's probably like the late 80s and the 90s. And then PetSmart came in 1996 and literally opened up across the street from them. And it just shot him in the head. I mean, it was a 50% reduction in sales overnight. It was like somebody just went, doot, and cut the switch off.
No way.
Yeah. And so like they'd worked so hard to build this business up. We starved to death in the 70s and the early 80s. And it's just like, it was heartbreaking just to watch my parents, you know, go through this. And at the time, my brother and I were in school, and we kind of started up our own little comic book store at the time. We were playing in a rock band. Okay. I swear it all flows into one thing. But we helped them with their marketing, and, you know, we did everything we could, but it's like customer loyalty doesn't exist these days. If somebody can get a bag of 𝐦𝐤𝐤 for $1 cheaper at the big box store, they're going across the street to get it, you know, or take your dog to the store. There are a bunch of other dogs. I mean, I get it. You know, to me, these huge retailers, these big box retailers are an economic force, much like a natural disaster, like a hurricane. It's like, you can be mad at a hurricane, but a hurricane doesn't care, and it ain't gonna do you any good. You know what I mean? It's like, you need to get you some water and get out of there. And that's what we did. So my mom the whole time was like, you know, I need a website. This was 96. And all my buddies who were smart were all the engineers, you know, like you, were like, they're riding this internet wave. And I have an art degree, and I was selling comic books out of my little comic book store. And I'm like, oh, I'm missing the boat on this internet thing. It's like, I know, I could feel it in my bones that this is the next big thing. And it really hadn't even, everybody's like, it's going to be a fad like CB radios, the internet. But my mom saw this commercial on television. It was an AT&T commercial for their e-commerce platform, which is like $1 million to get on. And it was some lady who like had these floppy sunglasses that if you sat on them, they wouldn't break. And the commercial was no store would carry her sunglasses. So AT&T let her build an online store to sell her floppy sunglasses. And the next scene is her just like, the orders just coming out that fax machine. My mom's starving to death, freaking out, going, you got to get me on the internet. You got to get me on the internet. And I'm like, Mom, nobody's making any money on the internet that's a small business. It's all, IPOs and porn, And my mom was like, well, maybe we need to get into porn. She was not serious. But the joke is to keep my mom from going into porn. She was 60, okay? Is that I put her stupid website up just to get her to shut up. And I love my mom, but if you knew my mom, it's like she will not stop. She gets fixated on something. She is like a pit bull on a pork chop. She's just like, and it's like just to get her to shut up. And so I made a website, I had to learn what HTML was. I even have a, show and tell. I've even got a printout of the first Gun Dog Supply website from 1997.
That is so cool.
Oh my gosh. NetObjects Fusion. So I was like, how do I sell this stuff online? I was like, well, let me just build like I'd seen all these brochureware sites where it's like request a catalog. And so I made this thing up and built a website. And if you know me, and you know me from social media, so it's like, I'm going to get credit for what I'm doing. Okay. If I'm out here working, I'm gonna make a video of it so everybody knows I'm in the warehouse, moving boxes and I'm sweating. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I got to get credit for it. Right.
Yeah.
So, I was into marketing for the comic book store and some of the other stuff my brother and I were doing. And I was like, all right, there's somebody on this internet who knows how small businesses can make money. So let me find this guy. So I found this guy, was deadlock.com, and he's still there today. And I emailed him about 2 years ago to thank him for setting me on the right path. And this dude had a forum, and he had a service where he would review your website. And he just basically had this is like, Internet Marketing for Dummies, 1997. And it blew my mind. And I did everything that he said. And the most important thing back then was getting a Yahoo directory listing, which Yahoo was Google back then.
Right.
And it's like, you just can't believe how big Yahoo was compared to everybody else. And, you could submit your company to Yahoo, but they got to decide what your directory listing said. So he said, you got to be real strategic about how you write it. And so I was smart enough to get the brand name Tritronics in the list of products that we sell in our description. So for 2 years, if you searched on the internet for Tritronics, probably on Yahoo, my site came up number 1 for 2 years.
The CEO mastered. The
dude,
SEO master.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm yes, SEO nerd, dude. I'm all about that. And the game's changed a million times since then, but because of that, we had all this traffic going to our, I don't know if you see it, but free catalog.
Yeah.
All right. So, you got to print catalogs and you got to mail them. And my dad did the math on it. He figured he was losing $5 for every catalog that we mailed out. And since we were number 1 for Tritronics, every day we'd be getting 20, 30, 40, 50 catalog requests. And he's freaking out. And he's like, you got to stop this. You got to stop this. It's like in Fantasia, when Mickey Mouse has got the brooms and all, He's like, I can't afford to be buying all these stamps. None of these guys are buying anything. They just want a free catalog. It's a bunch of 12-year-olds ordering dog supply catalogs. Stop it. Yeah. He said, either put my products online or shut the website down. And I was like, okay. And my brother at the time had found a company called ViaWeb, which is a lot like that AT&T commercial, it was an online store building platform. It was the first internet software as a service site where you actually built the website on their server. You would log into ViaWeb and you'd upload a JPEG and you'd add a name and you put the price in and it would create an HTML page. And you could put it in a section and it was like 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐤. It was great. If you didn't know HTML, couldn't spell HTML. Because of all the work I did on this the previous summer, I had all the digital files. But I had a black and white. I wish I had a copy of it. I had a black and white online catalog.
Okay.
So all my photos are black and white. All my, so I was just like, I just leaned into it and made a kind of cool black and white and gray, online website. And so we were the first, arguably, independent hunting dog supplier to have a website. And it it was great, but it was a fantastic time to be on the internet. You know, nobody knew anything. You could try everything, and we did, and it really, you know, saved my parents' business basically. And after doing that for about 6 months or a year, in between running we had 5 comic book stores at that time. My brother and I had started. Yeah, we were, you know, we were delusional about delusional. You need to stop. Don't open another store until you're making money with the first one. Okay. I thought the more I got, the bigger a discount I got. So it's like, no. Yeah. And I learned I was not a multi-entity manager, and I was not good at, you know, I'm good at, if it's here, we're great. But if it's over there, no, not great at all. But the internet was perfect for us. I could do it from anywhere. I was driving down to Jackson to my parents' store. Steve and I went to college at Mississippi State University up here in Starkville, which is about 2 hours north of Jackson. Okay. And so I would just go to home on the weekends down there and work on their website, taking pictures of their products that weren't in the catalog and uploading that kind of stuff. And it really transformed my parents' business to the point where my 60-something-year-old mother could not handle the phone calls and the ordering. And, you know, she's trying to retire, not die from PetSmart. Yeah. And also she's got this new, just, whoa. And that's where my brother's like, you know, that was his time to shine, because he's great at like systems and keeping things running and ordering stuff. I mean, just being really, he's really good at some of the details and the nuts and bolts of running a company, especially one that's growing real fast. Whereas like I'm out here just, you know, yap, shoot, you know, and figuring out the new stuff. And then, oh no, it's totally different. Now we're going this way. Okay. You know, that's more my gig. And so we, by that time we had closed or sold all the comic book stores, and leaned into the hunting supplies full time. And it you know, and it didn't like explode overnight, but it's like, you know, we doubled their sales in a year, and then they're able to sell their local store to the manager and just go completely online. And my dad and mom moved up here, and they kind of retired, and my brother had a bunch of kids, so they had grandbabies to play with, and you know, and that they were gone after that. They were worthless. You know what I mean? They weren't coming in the office. They were, you know, they're playing with grandbabies and going hunting and fishing. And it was awesome. You know, the thing about Mississippi is that you only have, you're limited severely by economics and geography. So it's like there's so few people here, and everybody here is broke. We don't have a tax base. I mean, it's the poorest state in the nation. And so as a comic book retailer, you know, super genius. You know what I'm saying? It's like we put our comic stuff online, and then all of a sudden 80% of my comic book store sales were coming through these 5 or 6 little bitty web shops that I had.
Right.
And I was like, okay, it doesn't take, you know, even an art major can figure it out, you know? And so I was like, all right, well, let's lean into this online thing. And for me, it wasn't the dog stuff and the hunting stuff as much as it was the leveraging small business and letting mom and pop shops, you know, David and Goliath versus, you know, the PetSmarts of the world, you know. And I really, really, really like helping, you know, the little guy whoop up on the big guy, which was my whole thing. And so I turned into a marketing consultant, like the guy who created the Yahoo Store software, the ViaWeb software. I was talking to him on the phone one day, and he's like, hey, you know, do you want to be a web developer for us? And I was like, what's a web developer? Right. He's like, what you're doing? I was like, oh, yeah. I knew that. I was just kidding with you. Yeah, I'd be happy to. And so, you know, here I am, not technical at all, but I'm like, you know, that kind of started a second career for me that kind of ran in parallel to the entrepreneurial stuff. You know, like we were talking earlier about, you got to do what you got to do to make a living, right? Yeah. So, you know, I always like to have 3 things going on, you know, the old thing, the current thing, and what's going to be the new thing. Right. And, you know, so that was my side hustle. So I'd work on Gundog sometimes, and I'd work on my client stuff sometimes. And I'd go out and I wrote a book, and I would go start speaking at conferences. And, you know, my dad would get real nervous because I'm just sharing my secrets with everybody. I'm like, hey, I did this. And it's like, I got a 6X increase on this one dog collar by doing this. And he's like, stop doing that. Quit telling people that. But I spoke to Congress. That was just really cool, testifying to Congress. I was the first person in our industry, I believe, to do that, which is very strange because I was not, you know, I wasn't the guy, but I happened to be the guy who was willing to fly to Washington on Monday. Fair enough, yeah. When the Congress was trying to overregulate Google back in 2008. Okay. So it's like I became I had my little 15 minutes there in the nerd circle, you know, which is great.
15 minutes is better than nothing.
It was cool, dude. It was cool. But so I did that, and then the more of the consulting stuff I did, and I still have one client left, but it's the more of that I did, I just kind of got burned out because people would be like, I love it. And then a family member would say, well, I don't like the logo. Can you make it a little bit more blue? And I'm just like, no, I can't. It's like, does it make, I want to make it more green. Does it make you more money? Then shut up. I love you, but shut up, you know? And I'm like, okay, I don't need to be customer facing. So I'm like, all right, in the business, if you call customer support and you're talking to me, it's a bad day because everybody's sick. You know, I swear I'll do my best, but I don't need to be customer facing for reasons that you'll probably have to edit out of this podcast. But that's kind of where we got to where we are today. And my brother and I, you know, 𝐥𝐤𝐬, it's like our Venn diagram of what we both do well is very small, you know. I'm over here doing this, he's over here doing that. It's like the MasterCard logo, always, you know. And it works for us. I mean, he handles, you know, the HR stuff and deal with employees, deal with vendors, and then he's got 17 dogs and hunts all the time, you know. But I've got the e-commerce stuff and the technical stuff and the photography and the marketing chops. And so, you know, between the two of us, you know, we kind of got, you know, we kind of got most of it covered.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say too. I wanted to let you finish, but it seems as though you guys couldn't have paired each other better. Like like you said, he's very good with the vendor and communication and the people, and you handle the background stuff, but you guys aren't like butting heads to who wants to be the face of this. You don't want
no, dude, the fact that I'm on, okay, you don't want to know. Everybody's like, what? Who is this guy? Why are you on his podcast? He's got some ducks, doesn't he? He's going to get you into ducks. I know exactly. It's like, no. But this isn't a dog podcast. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, this is my wheelhouse, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And like I was saying,
it can be a dog podcast, and it has been, but it's more of like whoever I feel like having on. And
absolutely. Well, this episode, this is a very special episode where the, you know, it's a photography, you know, nerd fest, you know?
No, but it's cool to hear the background. You know, everybody, your guys' site is very popular, and anybody that's listening to this that hunts, you know, they know your site one way or another. Like if they have anything hunting on their Facebook page, your guys' ad at some point pops up with them scrolling.
That's the plan, you know.
And that's the point, is that it's supposed to reach those people that are in this industry or have anything to do with dogs. That's how the SEO works. But your guys' website, it's not just specific to people that have dogs. Like, people know it. And if you've gone on the website to buy anything, I've bought, you know, bumpers and training gear and my Garmin collar off of there. Like, it is so easy. It's not super flashy. It's very easy to use.
Yes, and I've had a lot of people over the years. It used to hurt my feelings, and now I'm like, you know, I'd rather have a janky, wrinkled up $100 bill than a bright, shiny, freshly minted $1 bill. That's always been my, you know, that the website is a way for my customers to find what they need, get the education about the products that we sell, help them differentiate between the 2 or 3 different kinds that they have to choose from, make a choice, and then check out without a whole bunch of bells and whistles or stuff they don't have to create an account. You know what I'm saying? I just hate stuff like, I'm like, just send me my dog collar, dude. I don't need to. You know, I hate making accounts on places.
Yeah. KISS method. Keep it simple.
Absolutely. And it's like, yes. And it's like any field that I don't need in my checkout, you know, I'm just ripping it out of there. I mean, you don't even have to put a phone number in now. You know, I have 2 customer service people freaking out because it's like, this order didn't have a phone number on it. I'm like, well, maybe they didn't want to give you a phone number because you're going to call them. You know, if you email them, you know, I don't want people calling me. Yeah. So we try to do things to make it simple. And it's like, I mean, it's still in the same technology that, you know, in 1997 when we built the thing, but I can make it do stuff because I know that language. I can make it the website do things in my sleep. I mean, I can tell you right now how to code templates, and I just haven't found another platform that does that. As long as the uptime, you know, it's up and reliable, you know, the second that it's not that anymore, I'm off to Shopify like, you know, like 600,000 other people, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's cool to have like the Steve's picks on there where it's like kind of like Amazon Choice. Like it gives people like if you go on there and you know nothing, you're like, I got a dog, I need an e-collar for it. And you go through the different pages of like, I want a Garmin, I want a single transmitter or single transmitter, 2 transmitter, whatever the case is. It's all broken out in there very well. But then as soon as you go on, it says Steve's pick and here's why.
Right. And
we made it so easy.
Yeah, and it's like that we made a decision, and it really helped us. My dad was like I said, he was in politics as a bureaucrat, so he was, you know, these. If you had an opinion that disagreed with, you know, Governor Cliff Finch's opinion on whatever, your department's going to get squashed, right? You know what I mean? So you keep your mouth shut. You know, you don't want to be that nail, and so you don't want to offend any of the manufacturers or anybody. And I get that. He's very logical and methodical, and it's like that has its place. But for me as a marketer, I'm more like my mom's side of the family, and I'm going to tell you what I think about stuff. And my brother's like that. And we were like, look, you know, when he passed in 2003 and my brother and I took over the company, my brother and I made a conscious decision. It's like, all right, we're now going to take an editorial position on every single thing that we sell. There's a reason we sell this SKU. The reason we sell the Sport Pro is because 95% of dog owners can use it to train their dog. I don't have to ask you anything. You know, if you've got more than 3 dogs, you can't use it. See, I know some stuff about dogs. You know, but we took an editorial position. We said, this is number one, and this is the one that you need to buy. If you don't know what you need to buy this one. If you got 6 dogs and you're hunting, you know, you're running hounds and you want to stop them from like running trash, then no, you probably need something totally different. Right. But if you're running 3 dogs at a time or less, you know, and you know, 3/4 mile range, just like, you know, that's what you need. And so we took an editorial position. We make people mad. And I don't care. It's like, I have manufacturers calling me up going, why did you say this about that? I'm like, well, because you still haven't fixed it.
Right.
And that's Steve talking to them, not me, you know? But we do that, and our customers love it. And we started making videos about, I guess it was about 10 years ago, a buddy of mine, who I'd known from the comic book days, used to make commercials for our comic book stores. He helped us make, we want to make some product videos, and it's like, I didn't know where to start. And I had my little, Canon something 60. I can't even remember what it was. And it shot video, and I thought I could do video. And it's like, no, it's like just, so for $4,000, this guy came in and he had, you know, $1 million worth of equipment and lights and a sound guy and 2 camera operators. And, you know, and my brother's one take Steve, he knocked out 40 product videos in an afternoon.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. I cannot imagine now. It's like, we're lucky to get one in an afternoon, dude. But no, I was like, just, you know, tell them 3 things about it that you like and why they should buy it. You know, it's super simple. And he's, you know, do the same thing that you do on the phone, but do it on the website and do it in video. Yeah. And so we started cranking these videos out, and people really, really liked getting his opinion on things. And so we started doing videos, and that's kind of, you know, where we got to do, where I am today, as far as like, I got tired of paying $4,000 for this guy to roll out with his videos. Right. And it's like, he put an intern on some of the editing on stuff, and there's stuff that I had to go, hey, you need to move this over. This is not centered. Or, you know what I'm talking about. When you've got 4 hours worth of video that you're editing, it's really easy to, you know,
skip over.
I probably publish those videos, and if you see it, just look the other way, Brian. Look the other way. But I was like, I can do this, you know, foolishly, like Luke in Star Wars. You know, $5,000 for, you know, we buy our own ship for that, you know. And it's like, well, who's going to fly?
I was going to say, yeah.
And it's like,
buy a camera for $4,000, and then you can make as many videos as you want and take photos.
It's just your soul that you're giving up. You know, that's all your soul and all of your time, you know? And and it was like, it turns out it's the best thing I ever did, because it's like, it's my second act in, it's not e-commerce. It's like, I have this whole new photography thing and videography thing that it's like, if any of this other stuff goes away, that sustains me, just, you know, my soul, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it also gave me a way to connect with my customers and the business that was like, this is awesome, because I can go out there and I can show all my customers what Steve and maybe his hunting buddy get to see in Montana with huge sky and these dogs running a mile away, and just incredible things that you just wouldn't, if you're not out there, you know, your flip phone ain't going to get it. This is 10 years, you know?
No.
And so that allowed me to kind of like transition into more of this role of, well, I like the photography and I like the video stuff. I can do more of that, and less e-commerce consulting. You know, and that's kind of where we are today, where it's like, that's my fun part of this job, is like, ooh, I got a photo shoot. It's like, you know, or I got you know, or I have, you know, like I said, I have, you know, 50 terabytes of duck hunting videos, and I don't have a TV show, dude. I'm making 14-second shorts on YouTube.
Reels. Yeah.
Do you know how many reels that is? It's like, it's all of them, you know, I can,
for the rest of your life.
Yes. And I was like, I never have to go hunting again. Don't tell my wife that. You need to edit this out of the podcast.
I can do that. Yeah.
But I've got enough video, you know, of that stuff to you know how it is, just endless clips of duck coming in and circling and cupping up and just dive bombing you, and just the greatest. and the dogs working and the dogs being so excited and the hunters and then duck camp camaraderie and pranks. And so anyway, so that's what I get really excited about. So
well, that's how you get to flex your creative side of your brain.
Oh,
you know,
dude.
like it's kind of like me. I've got this technical side and I work, you know, my engineering stuff, my project management and that side of my brain. And then I got this creative side. And it's like, that's kind of what, for me at least, when I picked up a camera, I started to feel that. And I'm like, I like this. Like, I've never really had a creative outlet, you know, like I can't draw, I can barely write, you know, legible anything with a pen. And it's like, you know, what do I have? And I didn't really care at the time. You know, I mean, it's like, I grew up in athletics and being outside, and you know, I didn't really care about having something to, like, you know, make my brain shut off for a while.
Right.
Then, you know, you graduate and you've got some time, and it's like, yeah, what are you going to do between, you know, you're fishing, you're hunting, but when you're not doing that, what are you doing? I got tired of working on house projects and I picked up a camera because I was living in a marsh, and it's like I could see these ducks while I'm mowing the grass, and I'm like, what is that? You know, just to get close enough just to see, they'd fly off. I couldn't tell. And so it's like, well, why don't I get a camera with a big lens on it? So I somehow ended up with a camera with a 300 millimeter lens. And then I started to figure it out. Then I start looking in Ducks Unlimited magazine. I go, why don't my pictures look like that?
Right.
Rabbit hole. And now I got
10 years later, you're popping up. Yeah. Now they do. You know?
Yeah, now it's just it's escalated in the same aspect that it has for you. You know, you grab a camera so that you can save some money. Like, having that guy go out to film Steve in Montana would have cost tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes,
for one trip.
Yes, and you might get a 3-minute video out of it, and it would be great.
Maybe.
But
or if they go out there and they don't shoot anything, you've got nothing.
Yes, and I have a lot of those shows. If you want to have that no hunting duck show, you know, duck hunting show, you know, those would be the most entertaining.
We all do, but that's the part of it that's cool. Is, you know, you take this, you know, idea, you know, you take that money, you invest it into a camera, and now look, I mean, it's gone. Now you can handle all of the marketing, you can handle everything in house and just by yourself, but then you get these other avenues to go do cool stuff like shooting for Josh at Riverstone.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff is, it's priceless, really. Like, you get to go do it and you get paid, you know, it's that part of it's cool. But how many memories do you make doing that? And the people that you're around, like you said, like the duck camp camaraderie, like you can't put a price on that.
You know, that is like mental health. You know, the best thing you can do is get out of your house and go to duck camp and blow off some steam. And you know how it is. And people who go to duck camp understand. It's hard to explain to the wife, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, but it's like, it's a good 10 days, you know, it's like, it's necessary, you know?
Right. Yeah. How did that, kind of transform from you doing the cameras into working with Josh?
Yeah. So we met Josh, at the SHOT Show, when Josh was 12, I think. No, I'm just kidding. Josh looked like he was 12. My brother and I give him a hard time because Josh has got a baby face, you know? But my brother's like, you need to observe this guy. He's going places. He's got a very strong vector. He's going to be the Delmer Smith, Ronnie Smith, Rick Smith type, Tom Dokken guy. He said, if you want to see somebody's career from beginning to national prominence, he's like, watch that dude. And that's when Josh was like 22, you know. Okay. And I was like,
when he had that first dog, then that brown.
Yeah, I think so. But he was working for Sport Dog, and we met him as a Sport Dog rep at the SHOT Show, and we were talking with John 𝐥𝐤𝐬 of he used to own Line Country, who was our you know, distinguished competition. Let's just say, you know, we wouldn't call ourselves frenemies. You know what I mean? It was more, you know, the other, you know, the fact that we were speaking to each other and not fist fighting in the middle of the hall, and you know, is a testament to both our character and his character. You know, and he would copy us. You know, we'd rip him off. He'd rip us off. You know, he had people like he told somebody else. He told me that he had people in his office one day do the click on Gundog Supply pay-per-click ads day, and all they did was do searches for keywords that I'm buying and clicking on my ads that cost me money. Now, what he didn't know is that Google's got IP filters to where once you do it, they're not going to let you keep doing that because they know that's what you're doing.
Okay.
So Google's not charging me for all this stuff. So he's got 20 people in his office clicking on ads. and I can see that I've got, and I'm laughing because it's like, okay, it cost me $100, but you're wasting a day of your life. But anyway, so he was one of the competitors that we probably didn't get along with, and he'd probably say the same thing about us. But I mean, I respected him. He built a great business, and it's like he knew what he was doing. And I miss him as a competitor because, man, he'd make me get out of bed in the morning, just come out, let's go,
gloves on, yeah.
Woo, yeah. And so we went to, he suggested that we go out to dinner because we were discussing a business proposal that never did, somebody was going to buy somebody else out and it never pan out. But so we decided to bring young Josh along with us for the ride. So we're in Vegas at a bar, maybe with an underage, I can't remember how old Josh was. Yeah, he was 21 for sure, because that would have been contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which we would not do. But Josh's first introduction to us was us with 𝐥𝐤𝐞. And it was, I can't even tell you what we talked about at that thing because there's so much interesting language being used in a friendly way, but he was like giving me a hard time. I had a landing page that was line-country-supply.html, which was, and I built it, but I didn't know that I built it because a robot that I wrote built it. It took my converting keywords. It searched my site for content that I did not have. And it says, oh, you don't have anything about lines. You don't have anything about the country, and you have supply all over the place, but I'm going to make you a page called Line Country Supply as a landing page. And I did, and it ranked like 4th on Google for Line Country Supply. And I didn't even know it. Dude. It's one of those, one of those Hail Mary, I'm going to throw 5,000 things at the wall and see what sticks. Well, it stuck. Yeah. And I was just like, oh. And my brother's like, he knows I did it. He didn't even have to ask me. He's just like, of course you did. So all 𝐥𝐤𝐞's doing, he's like, that blankety blank robot, you built a robot. This guy with his robot. So anyway, that was my introduction to Josh. And that got Josh up to speed on the Snells. He was like, okay, if he can handle that, he can handle anything.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, 5 years later, maybe 7 years later, we're going up to go film some videos with Robin McFarland, who was an obedience trainer that we've done some e-collar training videos with. She's great.
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah. Police dogs and canine and military stuff, but she also does, golden doodles and, I mean, she can train anything. So we're going to have to shoot some video with her. And we're like, hey, let's go see Josh. And we went up there for training, and I brought like a big camera, like a 600mm lens just to shoot some, whatever I could shoot.
Real tight. Yeah.
Yeah. And I brought my video stuff. And so we ended up just kind of messing around, and we shot a bunch of stuff with Josh. We're like, this is great.
Yeah.
And then my brother was in a duck camp, called the Goat Farm. And Josh was another member at this thing. And it was like 100 people living in a shoebox, and it's like, and you got whatever bed you got when you got in there. And if you were first, you got the least crappiest bed. And then it just kind of went down from there. And they kept adding on to this duck camp to where it was like, it was like those Mississippi houses where Mama and Papa build a house and then they have kids. So they got to build 3 more rooms, and then their kids get married and have kids. So they got to build 3 more rooms on that. So you had to walk through every room to get to the thing. So like I got there late. So I have to walk through 8 different people's bedrooms at midnight with a flashlight to get into the closet. And no offense, Goat Farm. Goat Farm's a great place. There are ducks there. You should hunt there. But that's where Josh and I met. And that was my first, hey, I'm going duck hunting for more than just a day. And so I'm hanging out there, and I got my big boy lens, and I'm, they let me out of the blind. That's the first time I've ever been duck hunting where it's like, they're like, sure you can,
get out when we get what you need. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, because Josh wanted pictures of his dogs,
Yeah.
And it's like, and I got some pictures, and I was just kind of, that's when I switched from Canon to Sony, and I just gotten an A9 and that 600mm lens.
Okay.
And I was, I thought that was this is the fastest focusing thing I'd ever seen before, and this is after A9 had been out for a couple of years. And I finally was like, screw it. I'll bite the bullet. But yeah, I was able to get stuff like they're running through the water, and the water stopped, and it's, the beads of water. I was just like, this is, I want to do this for the rest of my life. How do I do this? And so I would be, so I, did that with Josh. And then we had so much fun there and just got along and decided that, we needed our own individual bedrooms, not walking through closets to stepping over Cletus to get to, to get to my air mattress that a mouse is, living in. And we bought a little bitty, house in Pocahontas, Arkansas, and got a lease. And that kind of started us going to Arkansas regularly. And so, Josh he's a great, he's a great people person. And so, you know, once he could be governor of Arkansas, he's been in Arkansas for 5 years. He knows everybody now. Whereas I'm gonna sit in the truck, you know, there are too many people. You
Camera and me, that's all I need.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't need to, I'll pay whatever it is to pay to get to go to do this thing. But it's like, no, I don't want to be, you know, Uncle Cletus's nephews, cousins, girlfriends, fathers, you know, war buddies, you know, duck lease that he thinks he has access to. Here's the pin on Onyx. I don't, you know, I'm not, you know, but Josh he'll get it, you know, he's buddies with everybody. And so he can find the places that we can go that have ducks, and he's, you know, so we did a bunch of leases and taking pictures, and we kind of worked out this great symbiotic relationship where it's like, my brother's not a duck hunter. Okay. So he's upland. And I just, you know, I had a yellow lab as a 12-year-old. And so that set the hook for me early on.
Labs.
But I wasn't into duck hunting until I was in my 40s, maybe my 50s, you know?
Okay.
And so I've always been the cheerleader for upland, but I never really had the dogs or, you know, the experience or whatever. But now it's like, I look forward to hunting season just like every duck hunter does. You know, it's like, I have duck leases. You know, I'm a terrible shot. I'm the world's worst duck hunter. I'm the guy you want to go with because I'm not going to shoot, you know, I'm going to miss all my ducks or some of it. But you know, I push the waterfowl side of it. So there's a kind of balance in the force, you know. If it's Steve, everything would be blaze orange and no camo, and you know, it'd be nothing but quail. I'm like, going, man, that's just that's too much walking for my old butt. Okay. He walks 20 miles a day. He has to train all year like an elk hunter to carry 75 pounds of gear and water for his dogs because where he hunts is so arid. And no, I don't. I've been quail hunting. It's not that great. If it was that great, I would do it. But he, you know, every morning he's up at 4:30 and he's running 20 miles or whatever he does.
Yeah.
Eating his Wheaties. But, so that kind of it gave me something that was as interesting as the upland side. And it gave the business a lot more content, you know, that was upland and waterfowl. And I really dialed in. I know the difference between, between timber, you know, and marsh. You know, whereas before it's like nobody who works here who's in the IT department has any idea what that is, you know? And it's like, I'm like, what do you mean you can't tell the difference? You know?
Yeah. There's trees. There's not trees.
Yes. And they're like, cattails, I don't know, you know? But that allowed me to, and Josh helped educate me on these dogs, and I get to go up there with, you know, him and Whitney with Riverstone Kennels, with, getting to spend time with these dogs has just been fantastic, and just seeing what kind of quality. I mean, it's world-class everything.
Yeah.
You know, you walk into her puppy room and, you know, you're not scrubbing up, but you know, there ain't no bacteria on you that's going to get on those dogs. Yeah. You know, Whitney's pretty particular about who goes in there, and, you know, and it's fantastic. All the hip stuff that they do and the blood tests and the genes and whatever, but then they go over and get the best British labs for their breeding program. And these dogs are studs, these hoss. I mean, you know, I am just being around one would be fantastic. And there are like 8 of them. Yeah. Dude, how do you pick a favorite? You know?
Well, you pick them, just not at the same time.
Exactly. So I would, you know, Josh and I kind of worked out a deal where it's like, okay, you can use my picture. If I can use pictures of you duck hunting, then you can use my pictures of your dogs however you want. You can use them on social. You can use them in ads. You can print them out and give them to customers. I don't care. You know, it's a pretty liberal photography agreement that we have, you know, because he gets to be my, you know, he's a Sitka model, right? Well, he's also a gun dog supply model, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, and if I need a shot, I can call him up and he'll be like, hey, let me get my dog and I'll do stuff. And so we've kind of gotten to do that. And so it's kind of helped us, you know, and then also as an entrepreneur, it's fun watching somebody who's, you know, in their 30s and, you know, full of piss and vinegar and, you know, want to take on the world and is not afraid, you know, to work all the time and, you know, have a little bit of risk and try new things. And, you know, it reminds me of back when in our 20s and 30s when we were trying all these different things. And now I'm old and tired and I want to go home and, you know, I want to scroll TikTok for 3 hours and get sleep, you know?